This conference will now be recorded.
Hello students, I'm Dr. Divya from TeenEinstein. So in today's class, we are moving to new chapter 15, Biodiversity. In biodiversity, in this chapter, we are going to learn about what is biodiversity and biodiversity conservation. Then conventions on biodiversity. Then some important definitions we have to learn, which is very important for your NEET exam. See, from this chapter, NEET MCQ, how you will get? Do you have any idea about that? Like they'll give some statements. In most of the question paper I have seen, like they'll give some statements and they'll ask you whether it is true or false. Okay, like assertion type questions, there are more chances from this chapter. Then some other type questions like about species diversity and all they may ask. So such type of questions you will get from this. So see, for reading, it is very easy. This chapter you can read and go, but to remember things, that is not so easy. So you have to note down each and every point in this. So let's start. Biodiversity. So you know that on Earth, you can see diversity of organism. Here you can see diversity, different types of organism, even in plants, animals, whatever may be, different types or that diversity you can see. So there is rich variety of living organism, right? So that will be like, it's fascinating. Like we'll be wondering how these many types of organisms formed on this earth. So there are various types of environmental conditions in different parts of this earth, right? So due to that, organisms, when they are getting adapted to that condition, we learned about adaptations and how for climatic conditions each organism is getting adapted and how it is showing, or some organisms, there are extinct organisms, some organisms are present and they're continuously changing, some are completely wiped off due to changing conditions, right? If they are not able to adapt, they'll completely get wiped off. Otherwise, if they're able to adjust with the condition, they'll get, or their existence, we can imagine how they are getting adapted to this condition and all. So such kind of adaptations that makes different types of organisms. So due to different types of environmental condition in different parts of this earth and different parts of an area or different parts of earth, that makes various forms of life, and these life forms are getting adapted to different environmental conditions. See, in the case of ants, that's why here I gave this picture. You can see in this picture, you can see different types of ants. So there are differences in each type. So like this, in your place itself, we can see different types of ants, right? So there are more than 20,000 species of ants. 20,000 species of ants. In ants itself, you can see these many species. So there are different species in one type of organism. See, among ants itself, you can see 20,000 species. So you think about the richness of that diversity. And in beetles, it's around 3 lakhs. Okay, 3 lakhs species of beetles you can see. Okay, see, just think about your surroundings. There are different types of organisms. Just think about the butterflies. See, you can see daily, you can see butterflies, right? There are different types of butterflies. So from that itself, we can imagine how rich that diversity. See, biodiversity, it is a vast topic actually, but here in this chapter, you have to learn some important ideas or important topics of this biodiversity. And in fish, there are nearly 20,000 species of orchid and 28,000 species of fish. In fish, you can see around 28,000 species. Okay. So, this biodiversity, it is not uniform. In all places, it is not uniform. That varies. This biodiversity varies. So, it will be more. It will be tremendous in some places. And in some other places, it will be moderate. Okay. So, biodiversity is not uniform everywhere. That changes depending upon the place, that changes. That will be moderate. In high biodiversity, it will be showing in some places, but in some other places it will be in a moderate way. And some places you can see it will be very low. Okay. Still, studies are going on. They are trying to find out the reason and why it is showing, or what is the reason for the tremendous diversity, or the significance. What is the significance of this biodiversity? That and all, still researchers are going on. So here, what we are going to learn is about some scientists, some important personalities who here, the person here, you can see the scientist who gave, or in his name some findings are there, like the term biodiversity. Who proposed that term biodiversity? That biodiversity that was popularized by sociobiologist Edward Wilson. This person, the scientist Edward Osborne Wilson. He was an American biologist and he was nicknamed as Ant-Man. Okay, his researches was, he was doing his research in this. So his nickname was Ant-Man. And he has been called father of sociobiology and the father of biodiversity. So the father of biodiversity, Edward Osborne Wilson. So he has been called as father of sociobiology and father of biodiversity. So biodiversity was popularized by sociobiologist Edward Wilson. And he described the combined diversity of all levels of biological organization. Okay, all levels, complete biodiversity, he tried to explain. Not like at a particular level, whole biodiversity. In the sense, all levels of biological organization, like small molecules like macromolecules or cells, genes, species, ecosystem, and all biomes, all type of biomes, everything he tried to explain. He tried to explain a combined level of biodiversity. Okay. Then next, according to his study, Edward Wilson, his studies, the combined biodiversity, there are some important types. There are three most important hierarchical level of biodiversity. Okay, there are three important types. First is genetic diversity, then species diversity, ecological diversity. See, we can explain it like that. Diversity in genetic level we can explain. Then species level, how it is showing diversity and what are all types are there. Then ecological diversity, based on ecology, we can study diversity. So there are different types of genetic diversity, species diversity, and ecological diversity. So these are the levels of different types of biodiversity, different levels of biodiversity. So we can explain it in a genetic level, species level, and ecological level. We can explain biodiversity. Okay. See, in genetic diversity, what we can say about genetic diversity? See, a single species that itself will be showing different levels of diversity. That means genetic diversity in different levels. See, that will be distributed in different places. So based on the genetic diversity, it will show different levels. That means genetic diversity, that is the, what is genetic diversity? Genetic diversity means that is a measure of variety in genetic information which is contained in that organism. In one organism, see, we have seen different types of ants, right? In the previous slide, we have seen different types of ants. So, genetically, these may be different, right? Their body, their color, that body pigmentation, everything is different. So, that means genetically they are different, right? In that chapter, genetics, we have discussed about all these things. Genetically, it will show, like allelic difference it may show. That changes due to that environmental conditions, that changes are coming. So we can explain in the level of genetic diversity. That means genetic diversity is measure of variety in genetic information which is present in the organism. So within a species itself, genetic diversity occurs, right? Within one species itself, we can see genetic diversity. That means difference of alleles. See, in an organism, you can see for red color, think about red color ant. You can see both dominant allele and one dominant and one recessive. But here also it will show red color, right? Because here dominant allele is present. So like that, in within one species itself, you can see different combination. Okay, so different combinations you can see. So due to that combination, difference in alleles, that entire gene and chromosomal structure, entire gene, that character which is expressed by that gene in different combination, that may vary. So that shows diversity within that species. So genetic diversity that enables a population to adapt to its environment. And that changes how the changes are happening. It is due to the environmental influence. So that finally that results in the changes, right? According to that environmental influence, that genetically that organism is changing. So that shows different types within the species itself. That variation, it is due to environmental effect. Okay, so the genetic variation that is present within a species, it is due to environmental influence. So here you can study the Rolfia vomitoria. Rolfia vomitoria, that is a medicinal plant. Okay. So this medicinal plant that is growing in different Himalayan ranges. Okay. It is growing in Himalayan ranges, and it is a very important medicinal plant. So that results in variation in potency and concentration of the active chemical reserpine, which is present in this plant. Okay. So this Rolfia vomitoria, this is a medicinal plant which is growing in Himalayan ranges. This is having, or the chemical which is reserpine, that is the chemical which is showing that medicinal property. Okay, but depending upon the growing region or in which place it is growing, the concentration of that active chemical that varies, the potency and concentration that varies. So according to that, so that shows the genetic variation, right? Depending upon the environmental condition, that potency and concentration of this active chemical reserpine that which that plant produces, that chemical which is produced by that plant, that varies. The potency and the concentration of that chemical varies. So that is due to genetic variation or genetic difference. So like this kind of changes that helps in the formation of ecotypes. Ecotypes. What do you mean by that? Ecotypes? Ecotypes means for a particular place, it is showing a particular type. Due to that environmental influence, one particular type is getting adapted to that environment. So that is forming a particular type for that ecology. Okay. So like this, you can see more than 50,000 genetically different strains of rice. 50,000 genetically different strains of rice you can see. Right? Rice, in that itself you can see this much or these many types, 50,000 genetically different strains of rice. See, for brown rice, in brown rice itself you can see different types. How many types are there? In long grain rice, you can see different types. In basmati rice, you can see different types of rice. Right? So like that, there are 50,000 genetically different strains of rice and 1,000 varieties of mangoes. See, these kind of statements you need to note down, because these statements like genetically different, 50,000 genetically different strains of rice are there, or 1,000 varieties of mangoes are there. Like that, some statements they will give and they will ask whether it is true or false. So this number you need to note down. Okay. So instead of this, they may give 3,000 varieties of mangoes are there. Just find out whether the statement is true or false. Then options will be there. Like 2-3 statements continuously they'll give. Option A and B are true, A and B are false, A and C are true. Like that, different options they will give. So from that, you need to find out the correct options. For that, you need to know that genetically different strains, 50,000 strains of rice and 1,000 varieties of mangoes. Okay, so that's the explanation for genetic diversity. Genetically, it is showing different, or that variation may be slight variation, or that may be huge difference. So like that, you can see difference in the genetical condition. So that shows the genetic diversity. Based on that also, we can explain biodiversity. Then species diversity. Species diversity means variety of species within a region. Within a region, variety of species which is present in a region, that is the species diversity. Okay, for example, we can say that like Western Ghats. In Western Ghats, we can see greater amphibian species. Okay, Western Ghats. Sorry, Western Ghats, we can see amphibian species diversity than Eastern Ghats. Okay, so in Western Ghats, amphibian species diversity is more compared to Eastern Ghats. Okay, so this species diversity, it's a product of species richness and species evenness. Okay, species richness and species richness and species evenness. Species diversity means species richness. Many types of species should be there. Then only we can see diversity. And species evenness, like almost some number it should maintain. Then species richness means number of species which is present in a unit area. In a unit area, how many number of species are present, that is called as species richness. At the same time, species evenness or species equitability means proportionate number of individuals of different species. Okay, or taxonomic groups we can say. We can say it as taxonomic groups. That proportionate number of individuals of different species. So in different communities, there's different types of species, this different taxonomic groups, they may show evenness. Okay, that's what you mean by species evenness. And maximum taxonomic diversity, that where it will be maximum taxonomic diversity occurs where species of taxonomically different groups occur in almost equal abundance. Okay, so maximum taxonomic diversity occurs where species of, that statement is very important, where species of taxonomically different groups occur, taxonomically different groups, in that different species are occurring, their taxonomic diversity is there. See, different taxonomically different groups are there, means that is taxonomic diversity. So there it shows almost equal abundance. Got it? Next is ecological diversity. So we can explain in the basis of genetic diversity, species diversity. Next is ecological diversity. Ecological diversity or community diversity we can say. We can say it as community diversity. See, in ecosystem, there are variety of ecosystem and you can see different number of niche, then different trophic levels, different food webs, different nutrient cycles, and everything that will show. And in the case of energy flow also, you can see diversity in that. Like for example, we can see ecosystem diversity. Ecosystem diversity, it is high. In India, you can see ecosystem diversity. Ecosystem diversity, it is high in India because here large number of ecosystems are present like rainforests, mangroves, coral reefs, then wetlands are there, deserts are there, estuaries, then alpine meadows are there. So it's like in India you can see greater ecological diversity. Okay, so ecological diversity, it is greater in India compared to Norway. That's what we want to say. Compared to countries like Norway, you can see greater ecological diversity because here we can see different types of ecosystem. I said mangrove, then coral reefs, then wetlands are there, deserts are there, estuaries are there. So different types of ecosystem it is present in India. Got it? Then another point what we want to mention here is, see, evolution. We have learned about evolution. That is also a reason for this diversity. Due to evolution, different types of species have formed. So in nature, these many types of species, the formation of these many types, that is due to the evolution. See, nowadays, this biodiversity and biodiversity conservation, it has become a greater issue because people should know, people should learn about the critical situation and the importance of this biodiversity, because that is related to our survival, right? On this planet, to protect, we have to protect this biodiversity that helps us to survive. Okay. So next, see, in this chapter you can see simple topics, but the point, you have to note down the species diversity, how many types are there, those things you need to note down. Next, we are going to explain how many species are there on Earth and how many in India. On Earth, how many species you can see, and how many are there on in India, how many are there. Then, according to International Union of Conservation of Nature and Natural Resources, IUCN, International Union for Conservation of Nature and Natural Resources. According to that, total number of plant and animal species, it is described more than 1.5 million. Okay, more than 1.5 million total number of plants and animal species. Total plants and animals. It is more than 1.5 million. 1.5 million. Can you imagine? See, total number of plants and animals. Animal species. Not the number, total number of species. That is around, it is more than 1.5 million. Can you imagine this number? Then, it's an average, or based on studies they are mentioning this number, and we don't have any clear idea about this because these are all based on the studies. So scientists, they estimate the number of species which is present in the tropics by comparing species richness between tropical and temperate areas. See, they'll compare the tropical and temperate area species richness. So for many taxonomic groups like species inventories, that is in temperate regions, it is complete compared to the tropical countries. Okay. Then scientists have calculated the total number of species in the world ranges from 20 to 50 million. Okay. Some extreme estimates ranges from 20 to 50 million. But scientifically sound estimate made by Robert May places the global species diversity at about 7 million. According to Robert May, the global species diversity is about 7 million. The global diversity in that based on the currently available species inventories, there are some important interesting topics or interesting points which has to be discussed about biodiversity. So in that, among that, number of animal species, it is more than 70%. Okay, more than 70% of all the species recorded are animals. So among the total, 70% are animals. And plants which is including algae, fungi, bryophytes, gymnosperms, angiosperms, all these are not more than 22% of the total. Got it? In total percentage, 70% are animals. And around 22% are plants. Okay? And among animals, insects are most species rich taxonomic group. So which is showing which one in animals, which is showing species diversity, or which is the most species rich taxonomic groups? Insects. You can see different types, so many types. So it is species rich. And out of every 10 animal, how we can say that out of every 10 animal on this planet, 7 are insects. Okay, that's how we can interpret this. So 70% of all species recorded are animals. So out of that, how we can say? It is the species rich taxonomic group, insects. They are the most species rich taxonomic group. So how we can say that is making more than 70% of the total. Okay, so out of 10 animals, if you are taking 10 animals, out of which 7 are insects. Got it? Then next point is the number of fungi species. Fungi species almost around 72,000. In that, total number of fish, that is 28,000 we said. Then amphibians are around 4,780. Then reptiles are, here you can see reptiles. Here just we said about fungus, right? In fungi, 72,000 species you can see. Then in fish you can see 28,000. Then amphibians, how many we can see, how many species, like 4,780 species you can see. Then reptiles they are around 7,150. And mammals 4,650 species you can see in mammals. So almost, these are based on studies, they have made this. So they are representing the global biodiversity. So that proportionate number of species of major taxa of invertebrates, vertebrates and plants. Just based on studies we are giving this. Okay. So the number of fungi species in the world, that is more than the combined total of the species of fishes, amphibians, reptiles and mammals. Okay, this number, it is the 72,000. This number is more than all this. If we are adding all these, then also it can't cross the number of species or species richness of fungi. Those many species, nearly 72,000 species of fungi are there. So if we are totaling all these like fishes, mammals, reptiles, amphibians, and all, then also we can't cross the number of species of fungi. Next, here we can see about global biodiversity. In that, India. See, biodiversity in India. See, India, it is divided into, see here you can see in this picture itself, you can see different places, right? See different types of land areas you can see from here itself. So India, it is divided into 10 biogeographical regions. Okay. India, it is divided into 10 biogeographical regions. So in India, only 2.4 of the world land area that is having 2.4% of the world's land area, that share of the global species diversity. It is an impressive 8.1%. Okay. In world's land area, India's area is around 2.4%. See, such a very less percentage. In that area itself, it's showing 8.1% of species diversity. In the total global biodiversity, India's contribution is around 8.1%. But think that in total world land area, India's area is coming around only 2.4%, very less percentage. In that very less percentage of land area itself, it is showing a high diversity, high biodiversity. It is around 8.1%. So that's why our country is one of the 12 mega diversity countries. See, land area is very less, but it is showing mega diversity. So that is placed among 12 mega diversity countries, which is showing high biodiversity. So India is among the 12 mega diversity countries because it is contributing around 8.1%. 8.1% of diversity, biodiversity. So there are nearly 45,000 species of plants and twice as many of animals have been recorded from India. See, around 45,000 species of plants, and we have already told animal diversity, it is more. So it will be double than this. See, only 22% of the total species have been recorded so far. Still, we are not able to record, or we haven't recorded complete biodiversity. So among that, only 22% of total species only recorded. Still, so many are there which is not yet recorded. So if you are accepting May's global estimate, scientist may, his global estimate we are accepting means in that only 22% of the total species have been recorded so far. Okay. So according to that, there are 1 lakh plant species and more than 3 lakh animal species. We need to discover only 22% is recorded. Still so many are there to record and discover and describe. Okay. So we need a large or a group of trained manpower like taxonomists and all we need. See those who are doing ecological studies or taxonomists and all we need for completing these studies or to record these many species pending work. So very large number of species that are yet to be discovered or yet to be recorded. Next, what we are going to explain is patterns of biodiversity. See, there are different patterns of biodiversity. See, we have already told that the diversity of plants and animals, it's not uniform throughout the world. It shows uneven distribution. It is not uniform. That is showing difference in different areas. So how we can explain that? It is uneven, it is showing uneven distribution of plants and animals. The diversity of plants and animals, it is not uniform throughout the world. It is showing uneven distribution. So there are many patterns, like there are interesting patterns in diversity. Which is like latitudinal, altitudinal, geographical, topographical, then humidity, humidity gradient. So like that, on different aspects, we can explain, or different patterns of biodiversity we can explain. So first is latitudinal gradients. First one is latitudinal gradients. Okay. See, when we are moving from low to high latitude, low to high latitude, that means from the equator. See, here you can see from the equator to the poles. When we are moving from equator to the poles, biodiversity is decreasing. Here you can see in poles, you can see low diversity. Here equator, you can see high diversity, and when it is moving to poles, that biodiversity is decreasing. You can see decreased diversity, or otherwise what we can see, the we can say biodiversity is minimum in the Arctic region and it is moderate in the temperate area and maximum in tropical regions. Okay. So what we can say, in Arctic region, biodiversity is minimum and it is in temperate region, it is moderate, and in tropical region, it is in maximum level. Okay. So high diversity in tropical region, we can say, example for that, Colombia. Hope you have heard about Colombia. Colombia, it is located near the equator and that is having around, in Colombia, you can see around 1,400 species of birds. But in New York, that is temperate area, that is having 105 species. And in Greenland, which is an Arctic area, that is having only 56 species of birds. See, we said in equator it is high. When it is moving towards poles, that diversity is decreasing. So here Colombia, it is around 1,400 of bird species of bird you can see, and New York, when you are moving to temperate area, it is around 105 species, and when you are moving to Greenland, that is Arctic region, that is having 56 species of birds. So there you can see it is decreasing. And in India, you can see 1,200 species of birds. 1,200 of species of birds. 1,200 species. Why? Because most of the land area of our country, it is in tropics. Right? Our country, India, that is, most of the area is in tropic regions. Then, a forest in a tropical region, like Ecuador, that is having 10 times more species of vascular plants when it is compared to area in the temperate region. Okay. Then the tropical Amazonian rainforest in South America, that is having great diversity on earth. See here we have mentioned largely tropical Amazonian rainforest in South America that has the greatest biodiversity on earth. In South America, Amazonian rainforest that is having greatest biodiversity on earth. It is having more than 40,000 species of plants, 3,000 of fishes and 1,300 of birds, 427 of mammals and 427 of amphibians, 378 of reptiles and more than 1,25,000 invertebrates. So it is rich in species diversity. In it, it is showing greatest biodiversity on earth. Which one? Amazonian forest, Amazonian rainforest, tropical Amazonian rainforest in South America. It is showing, it is the greatest biodiversity. It is showing the greatest biodiversity on this earth. Okay, so it is showing plant species more than 40,000, mammals around 427 species, and birds 1,300 species, reptiles around 378, then amphibians 427 species, fishes 3,000 species, invertebrates it's more than 1,25,000. These rainforests, the same, the rainforest, still it is having around 2 million insect species yet to be discovered. Got it? These are not based on studies. These many we have got based on our studies. Still, so many are there. Okay. Next, what is so special about tropics that might account for their greater biological diversity? What is the reason of this biodiversity richness in tropics? See, different so many ecologists and evolutionary biologists, they have conducted studies. So based on their studies, they have proposed different hypotheses which is explaining the cause of high diversity in this tropics. So some important points we have mentioned here. What is the reason for that species richness in the tropical area? So see, speciation, that is generally a function of time. Okay, in temperate regions, you have heard frequent glaciations in past and all. So that glaciations that may kill most of the species. That may lead to the, or that might have led to the death of many species, and such diversification, it is not occurred in tropics. So that helped in the flourishing of different species, and they evolved and distributed, and they are surviving for million of years. That may be the one reason. That may be the reason. Among so many reasons, that is one important reason. Because due to glaciation and all, in temperate regions, so many species might have wiped off, or they might have killed. But in tropical areas, such kind of issues are not there. So there won't be any kind of disturbance for the distribution of organism, and they are able to survive for million of years. So that may be the reason, one reason. Among the 1,000 reasons, that may be one reason for the survival and diversification of the species. And that's how through million of years, throughout evolutionary processes are going on, and there is species richness or diversity among species, because there is nothing to disturb. Then next, second one, like warm temperatures and high humidity in tropical areas. Okay, that will provide favorable condition throughout the year. So therefore, tropical environments compared to the temperate regions, these tropical environments are less seasonal, and they are almost constant and predictable, right? So that kind of constant and favorable environment, that is helping those tropical organisms to survive there, and that shows greater species diversity. In temperate regions, less seasonal, relatively more constant and predictable compared to temperate. Okay, in tropical environment, you can that seasonal, less seasonal, and it is almost constant, and we can predict. Okay, so compared to temperate regions, the tropical regions, you can see species diversity or richness. Then, in tropical area, the tropical area receives more solar energy. Because that place is near to equator, so it is receiving more solar energy. So the tropical communities are more productive, and they can support wide range of organisms. So that become more productive because it is receiving more solar energy, because that is near to tropical region, it is near to equator, so that is receiving more solar energy, and that makes the species more productive, and that is also contributing the, not in direct way, it is in indirect way, at least in indirect way, it is contributing to that greater diversity. So that is also one reason. Got it? So these are the main points, or these are the supporting factors for tropical species richness. Species richness, or tropical region which is showing greater biodiversity, or by compared to other regions, why tropical areas are showing species richness or species biological more biodiversity. These are the some important points which we have concluded from our studies. Okay, so hope this is just an introductory class for biodiversity. Then next you have to learn about some species and area relationship and all. So that we will discuss in the next class. So hope up to this it is clear. If you have any doubt, you can ask me. Hope it's clear. If you have, go through these portions. If you have any doubt, you can ask me in the next class. Thank you.